Monday to Friday, 6:45 to 9 a.m. And just follow us on the social media handles at Promise TV UG on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. And well, my name is Angel Walker. I'm not alone in studio. We do have Don Stewart, G the Guru, and Susie the Rich Babe. We'll be uncovering what happened in Kalangala, the cyclone, the disaster, the hailstones, and of course even the lives of people that were lost and those that were injured. And you could be wondering how to join this discussion today. Use the number scrolling on your screen, 80 okutweyungako oba ogendeko social media handle yonna otutagging at Promise TV UG. Tujja kubanga tusoma those comments that are instantly abali ku YouTube namwe tusanyusa nnyo kubanga mweteyunzeko. In case you missed this, you can catch it on our YouTube page. Well, I'm not alone. Let's dive deep and find out how the Sunrise Crew is. Good. Oh, do you still have that the kagoma, the rain, the
no, by now I'm not even bothered about it. I mean, that's life, really.
You know, I was coming today and I was thinking about those things that make people really leave their houses late, like late. Also, then because me, I think ironing is just one of those things. Just come, say someone of pass in Egana. No, John Gramu, Negana, Katsimani,
you know, when you have natural hair and you want it in one place in the morning, at night you tie bitutwa.
Yes.
Then in the morning now. And there is a wet time rush.
Means it's single consumbo. You know, like you plan your time bulonje. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Amanya mwana yewa sogena tolo kamnyumba. I'm gonna hook you up. Mommy. And they want to start a conversation. And they're like, my dear. And then they want to come out of bed. Then they want you to then adjust makeup. They were saying, they're full of stuff.
Stuart, what do you think?
I think mostly it's about to me it's about just tidying up things.
Tidying up things.
Tidying up. This looks. I have like 5 minutes. And now before you know it, they have to tidy up like for 10 minutes.
But you know, they told us that having a good day, the first thing you do is to have your bed laid.
Yeah.
All that time, honestly speaking.
Actually,
just saying, you know what? It's well.
Well, just that two other things I think is makeup and polishing your shoes, just to close up on that. But well, let's review what happened in Kalangala. But it's actually very sad because nobody saw it coming. You know, nobody saw it coming. The two lives that were lost to Waswa, one police officer who was a sergeant, you know, another one was a porter along the uniports. Three of those lost their lives, and also 15 others got injured along the processes.
Actually, I think the number has risen to 30 now.
30 people injured.
30 people, and around was it like 300 homes?
300 homes,
including bars and lodges that were destroyed. And of course, the name of the officer was recognized as Detective Sergeant Mujase. Detective Sergeant Mujase. This is according to Twaha Kasirye, the regional spokesman for Greater Masaka region of police. Yes, he came out this morning to give the report.
But among those things, some institutional buildings were spoiled, like the Kalangala Central Police Station, and the police communication equipment also was destroyed.
Wow.
So between and one of the residents actually came out na gamanti motoka yabadde mu parking, yabadde mu garage, only to find out the roof flew off.
Of the car.
The roof of the
garage.
house. Yeah, never koteyategedde. Noyo omukyala yabudde n'agamba mwana yafudde. N'agamba nti it was actually terrible because one of them said that he saw ngamazi gakola round circle. By the time they noticed, it came to heat. Now this guy's house, well, it was a furniture home in Kuba and the parents could not even save him.
You can look at that picture right there, sincerely. Just imagine if someone was inside and what would happen to them.
Okay, the beauty with the car, if this person is sure it can easily be worked on, but the lives that were lost. And they say that it had been long since something like this had happened.
So it has ever happened?
Yes, but they said it had been a very long time since something like this had happened.
But someone is watching us and saying, what is a cyclone? Maybe tornado or something. Actually, someone even just ticked it on their status. We have a tornado. What?
I think a cyclone would be like the way you have a whirlwind when two winds from different directions come and they meet. Now, kati why it became a cyclone? It's because za meetinze kumazi. Kati remember with the whirlwind, empewe negenda kuja and egenda ku oluma esitula enfuufu naye kati jjukira eno tebeera strong nnyo ebeera ku lukalu naye kati empewo eri ebeera ku mazzi. When these two meet nezitandika okusitula amazzi, that's when you get a cyclone.
And they form that circle like as if it's fighting.
You know the 8 villages that were affected, it is really alarming. 8 villages, when you look at the town council, those temporary infrastructures were all down. But of course, I want to commend the Minister of State and Disaster Preparedness, Lydian Abba, and also Uganda Red Cross Society. They were very swift in responding. Also the MP of Kalangala district, they were having a meeting yesterday and trying to see how they can navigate this tough situation for people to be able to cope up.
Actually, the RDC, Henry Sebunya, he says that he called the office of the Prime Minister to deploy an emergency response team immediately. Kubanga yagambye nti they didn't even have time to go through simanyange bibya protocol what because the problem was like it was an emergency. And the Red Cross guys, wow, you guys did so well because they came out. They really rescued people, and they say that they're yet to give their report about what's happening, which means they're still on ground.
Most definitely, such organizations cannot just leave ground. They have to keep there until the situation has calmed down or settles permanently. Sometimes it even includes them relocating people and removing them from one location to another. But also, I want to believe there are community teams that usually have to be instituted there so that they can be a part of the response units. Otherwise, if the community is not engaged, that means there is going to be a problem. But for me, looking at such disasters, it takes me back to, when a disaster strikes, what happens to those people after? Because now the relocation, there has to be, honestly, a partnership between private individuals and the government such that they can relocate these people to private land. In the meantime, otherwise it was really...
It was over like 300 houses, I think,
were affected.
And that's a big number because if each house probably or each home has at least 5 people on average or 3, that's still a big number of people that are displaced. But just hailstorm and the cyclone that happened in Kalangala is just one of the disasters. What do you think are some of the other disasters that you guys know? Because I know drought is just one of them.
We have seen disasters like landslides in especially Bududa. The
Bududa.
fertile areas, Bududa is so fertile, and that's, the grounds are so soft, the soils are so soft. You can wonder why it does not happen in Chigezi.
Yes.
Chigezi is harder, and Bududa has more fertile land. And Chigezi, there is a way they've done their terracing and all, but because their soil is firm, this side it is more soft. So the landslides really usually affect them, but that's one of the things.
I just want to believe drought is one of them.
Yes.
Remember what happened in Karamoja? For a very long time, they were known for not having enough food on ground. It's of recent when, I remember when Pastor Kayanja came up and mobilized people so that they go to start farming for them. And I think it also helped on reducing on the famine that side.
You know, I noticed something about Karamoja, that if you're going to implement any project, you have to work very closely with their local leaders.
That's true.
But if you're just going to come and create any change, ogena kubera alien.
That's how you
Actually,
It's possible.
In the Karamoja region, it's actually where you have people who are so cultured, more so in respect for leadership. Yes, so much respect for leaders that when they have local leaders whom they call Akoporo. Now, if Akoporo says something, the leader, Akoporo, says something,
it doesn't matter.
That's the final.
No, they have their own cultural leaders in them.
But you see, when we are in such arrangements, there are stakeholders that you cannot oversee. Government just cannot, and that is where I think government's hands have been burnt seriously, especially in the regions like Karamoja, where they've wanted to bring up government projects that have worked elsewhere, and they want them to also work in Karamoja. Yet these people have a very strict culture that they do not go against. So government and local leaders, and by the way, we might think it's only in Karamoja, but it's everywhere. Everywhere. You cannot just bring a project and institute it there without understanding the culture, without understanding the people, without understanding the leaders, the leadership. You just cannot. You must. The government has to be able and swift and willing to work with the leaders on ground. So there are different stakeholders that must be, for example, disaster preparedness. Having teams on ground. You don't just come from Kampala and bring a team to, no. They are going to tell you, no, we need our people here. They don't know the language. They don't know the weather conditions. They don't know the, the landscape and how they should maneuver, navigate and go about these lands. So it's very important that the people who are working hand in hand with government are from the local communities.
I think that's why we have different representatives in government. Now, like, we have different MPs that are coming from different places. So, for instance, this disaster that happened in Kalangala, I'm sure the MP knew about it, so it was very easy to go through them to get help. So, and that person is then works together with the one in the local community. Yeah, so they make it easier.
You know, someone could be wondering how this cyclone started, and looking at the reports that were given, it's saying that it's from the eastern side of the Kalangala. You know, Kalangala itself has 32 uniports where people keep people ferried across the board, maybe transportation and all that and movement, until these other 8 to 12 villages were affected. No gamba, what happens after? The reports have been given. These people died. These people have been injured, which is something very important. When you talk about disaster preparedness, there are 3 things: the risk assessment, the mitigation, and also the recovery. And the recovery is one that is always abundant, and yet the mitigation is what is always done. Ntikale abantu relocate is about what next for them. When they know mudala or watermelon, what happens to them that they have been relocated starting a new life?
But there is a person who has been owning a guest house or a lodge, because even those that had bars, now they're relocating. Is there a way how they are going to receive probably capital to start off a business in their new location as you relocate them? Like, they have to find a way of sustenance, because even you'd think to a gazetted place, the way we see in the refugee centers, but also at a certain time it becomes a bit unsustainable. Yes, and the mere fact that even some of the foreign aid that we're really basing on as a country in such instances and disasters have been cut off. For example, the US aid. So there it means that the government needs to think of a way to sustain such kind of people.
But you see, even before we get to AIDS, because for example, when the Bududa landslides happened recently, that relocation, people were taken to I forget that place, but in Chidiandongo. Yes, Chidiandongo. So they were taken to Chidiandongo, and it got to a point where the government had to step up, because now what you're asking is very crucial. The aftermath. These people were taken there, and we saw people actually striking and saying, you brought us here, you dumped us. And because it is disaster preparedness, they are usually taken in tents. And you are talking about a business already. There is nothing like that. There is not, because at that point the government wants people to have where to put their heads and first rest and sleep. And in that moment, the government has to be able to provide food, to provide clothing, shelter, and basic needs. Now, that after, what happens? Because now, as they are this side, their land this side is being, people are being excavated, things are being, removed, the soil and all. And remember, at that point, a person just cannot come out of that camp and go back to their place, because at that moment it's even gazetted off and declared as a dangerous zone, as a danger zone. So it is very, it's crucial, and I don't know if we are ready as Uganda in such times, because now when you talk about aid, and US aid was very was very crucial in such moments. But now look at the Kalangala issue, where
but we still have UN.
It brings
UN help.
Well, that is
the way you're mentioning is it have a contract?
But is it also is its mandate? Does it have a mandate in sorting or handling disaster?
Gee, that is an important point, which brings us to unlock the national policy of disaster preparedness and management, the one that was launched in October 2010. Reviewing it, I realized it breaks down the different disasters and the policies attached to it. But when I went to what happened last year, the Minister of State, that is Lilian Abba, came out and said, well, yes, all this is in place, but we are suffering from financial shortages. Like there is no immediate maybe fund bank where we can always get this money. Even the money, she was echoing and saying this money has to go through long procedures before it is approved. And the president last year also came out and said, please release 50 billion for the people who had been experiencing the disaster. To take our
that sounds a bit contradicting. A minister to come out and say that we don't have the money
internally,
and the president just comes and says release the money. We don't have.
but the issue of bureaucracy, that it has to go through all these different processes. But remember, you're responding to a disaster that has happened.
Also, when the president comes out, it's to quicken the process.
So do we have a decentralized government or a centralized government?
Decentralized, especially. It's really decentralized. It works from up to down. But talking about the funding and the issues that that come with it. First of all, is that money there in the reserve, or it was used for another emergency? Because when emergency strikes, there can be, right now we are looking at this emergency, the Kalangala emergency, but also landslides are an emergency. Security can, security can also be an emergency. So the issue about funding, yes, it will always remain tricky because there are several emergencies that may happen in a certain period of time, and when you just say that release for Kalangala at that particular time, because we had an emergency to lock down our borders from, you know, people coming in and hitting us.
Also had
but
one
also
that happened earlier in Chitez.
Exactly, right. And all that is money coming from the disaster preparedness of treasury. But well, that one we shall leave it to the government. But also there is something called the capacity building, addressing capacity where in times of disaster is the capacity that we have to handle these matters enough. Is it even there? Because the stakeholders, are they well financed? Are their ambulances enough? When these people are brought in, someone comes in definitely in a critical condition, the health centers in that region, are they well ready for such to receive such, and are they even equipped? So you'll find that as we really have to work extra hard as a nation to have these things in place, because at some point it is beyond people just mentioning it that our health centers are not facilitated, the women are dying, but no. Now you can imagine a disaster like the Kalangala issue. It's not about the women and
it's about everyone.
It's about the community. Yes.
Even, for example, if you look at maybe a fire outbreak in Kampala, a response from the fire brigade to come and probably extinguish this kind of fire. And me, the question that I would be asking myself is, how are we prepared enough as citizens when such kind of disasters do happen?
I think as citizens we need to actually do even better, because now when you look at a testimony from an eyewitness who saw when the cyclone was forming, they say it formed like for 20 minutes. And the water was rolling, and after that it came upon them. Now in such an instance you'll find that people didn't know, and probably but they don't even know, because like, when was the last time we ever witnessed a cyclone on Lake Victoria?
Actually, not even witnessing.
Until now, because that is
someone can look at it. Someone can look at it, and you don't know. Okay, this is a side effect. This is going to attack us.
But I want to believe that our meteorological center should have see these winds coming, because if you are talking, and you know, because it can be detected.
To be able to tell us.
Yes, it should be detected and know that. I mean,
in
California, people were warned. People were warned, and they were told, leave this place. There is a cyclone coming. There are, you know, heavy winds that are coming. There is a tornado coming, and people had to vacate those places. But how come we never get to know?
That
is what we are talking about here.
Now preparedness of the citizens is really so much dependent on
how much the support
support that we get from the authorities that are concerned on that particular one. But of course we have the National Emergency Coordination Center, which is actually supposed to coordinate information. For it's information, like for example now tulabye omuyaga gukujja empewo zino zigenda kujja zegatte, it could form something. Now it's the role of the National Emergency Coordination Center to now start informing the other authorities, other stakeholders involved that we have seen something like this and we need to prepare. But now where the question comes in is the National Emergency Coordination Center, because okay, we've talked about the Meteorological Center. Yes, egambye nti bannange tulabye kino na kino na kino, tulabye empewo zino ziri mu kwegatta and we might have a cyclone. Now kakati ba stakeholders abalina okuyamba in this, because okugamba abantu okuvacating ekifo, for example a place like Kalangala, it's a bit tricky where you have water around you oli ku kizinga, so it's going to be a bit of a challenge wajogenda okuddukira. So kitegeeza bagenda kwetaaga more support than they can actually have for themselves.
But when you talked about what we can do as the citizens, I think it also goes back to sensitization. Nti we should know where kumpi n'amazzi. You said you're in the know, such things happen. Because we've seen these people, they settle right close, and most of the people that were affected, these are people who do fishing. And people who do fishing usually settle right there. We've heard of places that the policeman who died, he was staying in the barracks, meaning it was close to the water. So if you know you stay close to the water, you should be sensitized enough to know that, okay, when mbera kumazi, anything can happen. Yes, we want the houses, but your life comes first.
But you know, there is something, even Angel, let us demystify some things. As Africans, as yes, we understand tuyina bino ebintu byonna bye tulowooza nti bye bigenda maaso, omuntu n'agamba eryokubo lya musamba. Yet it is a cyclone, it is serious. These things are caused by winds. It has happened in Entebbe before. And people are saying, no, nedda eryokubo era temuzimbawo kubo lya musamba. But I mean, a cyclone will come and happen anywhere, and it will cast the water in any direction. So what you were mentioning, Stuart, is very crucial. Us having information on time. Our centers it should be able to inform people on time. For example, if there is a cyclone that is going to happen on Lake Victoria and it's going to hit Entebbe, someone should see that. If you are forecasting and saying that, well, there is going to be a dry spell for a long time, and here we are in the rain, and the other day you are saying no, it won't.
You know, one of the methods you had mentioned is when someone, local people, someone comes and says,
yet they are warning you, you know, try first of all relocate, get relatives, go somewhere far, you know, something like that, get out of this way.
Really very pivotal. He's talked about these meteorological centers and then the emergency centers coming. What I really feel is there is no coordination in the activities that happen. Because if there was coordination, despite the capacity that we have, they would bring out something a little bit more.
Like we should be able to use the little capacity we have.
Look at the video the video that was circulating when that disaster had just happened. There was this lady crying, or the police lady. She was like, "Wanange Afandes, please send us a chopper here. We don't have an option. Send us a chopper." And you look at it because omuntu na surrounding kakati ferry na yinzo okutekinga mwakadde okuba najeberegize yinzo kuba
and someone is using the chopper to go to prom.
That's true.
Now olaba anti-coordination and yabadde ntono, because now you would think that we would have the meteorological center yabadde inokodde aviation authority okulaba engeri abantu bano tubajjawo tutya or something like that.
But I think even these equipments have to be in the Ministry of Disaster
and preparedness. Just in case. But also you would look at the local governments, and the leaders in such places. You would really want to think that Singa Ministry of Local Government now on the LC5s, the sub-counties in Kalangala district, but they prepared enough. Probably the response would have been even better. But also Namarwali health centers. Now you would imagine that they actually had to take some of the people to the Masaka Referral Hospital, which is actually at distance. You get, because it's the nearest also of preferring home. But wouldn't we think that probably by this time maybe we would have a hospital as close?
Reviewing the incident that happened in Kalangala, emergency response was more of land response.
Yes.
You know, and the water and air was not really that more effective. Because if you look at that example of the lady saying we need help, the person may not even know how to swim, you know. Maybe they have a baby they are carrying, and the boats were not, the boats actually, they were just the water savers that happened over the weekend. But also I heard over the weekend that Malawi also experienced a cyclone. So there must be something in regards to our climate change across Africa and over the world.
That's true. But I want to believe that we should be prepared as Uganda to know what to equip, how to equip our centers, or what to equip our centers with. Ambulances, yes, and also having these partnerships. You've talked about the Ministry of humanitarian organizations. We saw the Red Cross really did a good job, but also partnering with you said the civil aviation yes, whereby people can be airlifted from such floods, heavy floods, if they are, you know. And these partnerships are very inevitable in terms and times of disaster. Yes, they are very, very inevitable. Otherwise, if I'm sure the ministry cannot do it all alone. It needs the police on ground. It needs the UPDF itself. Actually, even the UPDF has those planes. It could have also, you know.
Let's hear from the public. And in case you are joining us right about now, we are dealing into the cyclone that hit Kalangala and the 30 lives that were lost. What is your thought about it? What disaster preparedness measures can be put in place to avoid such situations? We'll be receiving those comments as they come in. But well, mending moments, Uganda says, looking smart girls with my deep voice, gentlemen. We'll be reading more of those comments regarding the discussion. I just want to read one of the comments that has come in. Ghana says, the Kalangala storm shows the need for better disaster preparedness, reforestation, and stronger infrastructure. Collaborating between authorities, NGOs, and locals is key to building resilience, which I believe he has echoed something to collective effort.
But collective effort, he has also mentioned something of reforestation. How protected is Kalangala? How protected are areas around the water sources? You find that because, I mean, their activities don't need them to have as many trees as they should have. So you find that even when the winds come, there is no windbreaker. It just comes and, you know.
But Jean, you know, water moves. Like
it does.
If it has been stopping at a certain place, with years it keeps moving. So even though there are trees, because there are places that you can be, like I've been to some places in Entebbe that have water, and you see a tree in the middle of the water, like, and you're wondering, okay, how? And they tell you, actually, this water used to be there, but it keeps moving, and still people are settled there.
You know, when you look at what happened in Kalangala, one of the things that triggers me is, what if that health care center was not in place,
Yes.
where would people have been rushed? Clinics, you know. That is one of the things that Stuart has been really echoing, like the preparedness of these key places that can be really be able to mitigate such situations.
And when it comes to health cares, because I remember we've been talking about this, especially in the rural areas, that hospitals are few, there is no equipment. Now, these are 300 homes.
Yes.
The numbers keep increasing, especially the people that were injured, and we are still not yet in position to take care of all the people that were injured. So I think that calls for more help when it comes to the health facilities. And we talked about ambulances.
Yeah.
I don't even know if we have ambulances in those
Of course, they
places.
had a few water ambulances.
A few.
Yes, but I guess our resource allocation needs to be given more attention. Resource allocation in such responses, because now you can imagine, even when we had an emergency in Chitezi, the response came a bit later.
Late.
And also for the fact that ebintu nga bino olumu biba probably when the Ministry of Disaster and Preparedness, is it? Olumu ndowooza ebintu bino tuyinza obutabirowoozaako because probably they've not happened before, or they took a long time. Now, for example, a cyclone, people in our age would think that a cyclone ebyo bibeera eri mu nsi z'abazungu, ffe bye tetubiwulirangako. So olumu our preparedness also tulina okubeera prepared for things that ne bye tulowooza nti biyinza obutatuukawo wane. We need to prepare for more, but also real-time monitoring.
Real-time monitoring.
Real-time monitoring yeetaaga okwongeramu. Real-time monitoring kubanga akati you would think that singa this was seen probably like a day before, because you wouldn't want to think that gundi empewo zino zatandika kujja buzi, probably wayinza okubanga alibaddewo okulaba nti empewo eno eri mu kugenda mu direction eno, nene eri mu kugenda mu direction eno, wayinza okubawo potential.
You know, Honorable Lillian Abba raised a concern last year, and she said we need to create or develop different disaster prepared centers that are more prone in these particular areas. And so, as she raised this, of course, the deputy speaker Taiwa said, of course, where does the money that is collected in these local councils and local authorities go to? This is a question that remains unanswered, because it all has to go to the maybe they call it the port, the tank, the financial tank. So if these disaster preparedness centers are there, it will become more easier. Also, people need to be taught, like Susie mentioned earlier.
That's true. And you know, the challenge that we have in our communities is people, when people see such disaster strike, they like to take advantage of the calamity that has happened. Now there is someone who has already assumed the blanket agenda ziguza government instead of, you know, because now it is disaster strike, and now food prices are going to shoot up because, I mean, and all these things are being sold to government so that they can respond. Yet stakeholders are also individuals, communities, and everyone should come through and know that disaster has struck. Everyone has to put their hands together so that things can start, you know, adding up, and you help this vulnerable person instead of taking advantage. So maybe what Honorable Abe was saying would help, having these centers around and equipping them in advance, such that, you know, there is something prepared in there, foodstuffs, and there is programs, government programs that I know very well have gone on, and people have been asked to store up grain.
Yes,
people have refused. Now that grain works in such times. There is a particular project I know very well of. locals were given canvas stores. A canvas store nga bonolaba ekitundubaali naye nga kiri hard, and when you store in there it could store in tons and tons of of grain. And now Angel has 100 bags they bring, Stuart 200 they bring, Jean has kwegamba buli omu n'ateekamu. Farmers were encouraged to put in their grain to keep. By the way, it was not even for disaster, but to wait for the price to go up, then they can open this canvas and they now start selling at a good price. But you see, such things can also help in times of disaster, but people refuse.
Such things, they look at how secure or yes, kakati grains, how secure is the grain?
No, Stuart. By the time this is a government system, and it is a story, and it is a program. You have been trained on how to take out the moisture, and to keep the food safe. And they are not saying store up all your things. It is just grain, maize grain. Sell the beans, sell the cassava, sell these other things, but keep this, so that, and even then afterwards you can have it turned into something else. So, and these things were being kept at the LC's place. Trusted people in the community. So the issue of trust doesn't even have to suffice, because you agree as a community, as farmers.
Actually, right there on the issue of trust, that is the biggest challenge why most of the people would not respond, as actually it's a very good idea, it's a very good initiative. Na yo lumu abantu batyagondi if I think
you remember that thing that you told us about, where people are actually given these things to store food, and people would use them for other things. Yet they know what they're supposed to do, and yet we keep getting these same disasters. So initially, us as the citizens, we're not ready. Us, we are not ready, because these things are being provided and we don't put them to use.
We have even been told
they don't put them to use, yet we need them. And I think this calls for the nation. All of us need to contribute, especially when something like this happens. I mean, who knew that it happened to Kalangala? This is the time when we are all called upon to help. Now, for those who have those things and were able to store some food, I think this is the time when we need to come through and help out.
Despite like disaster hitting, when I look at the mental health recovery of people, despite the basic needs that they have provided, so like people to recover that they have lost their loved ones, it's also something really else.
That's true.
Their
Very
loved
true.
ones,
because
their businesses.
It can never be the same. It can never remain the same, because remember, a home is destroyed. Memories are destroyed. I mean, a whole family home where these grandchildren have been used to come and run into over the holidays and coming to to enjoy.
Memories,
memories have been destroyed. So yes, it really, I'm sure it works on the mental capacity and health,
but also community. Like now, for example, Timubade mu community omanyi neighbor ogundi omanyi Uganda gundi, and now of course when probably relocation happens means obutagenda mu kifo kyekimo or something.
And you know how for us Africans we like to preserve our culture. Kati for example, tornado cyclone, it has wiped all of you out, and then now kati waliwo bano ebijja byaffe biri wano ate abantu bazise kalangala.
Look at that fire of the Los Angeles wildfire that
happened. Almost 200 acres. Now things are really destroyed and lives can never be the same again.
And you know Kalangala has also been known for one of our tourism attraction things. So it's also been affected because many people would go to Kalangala for tourism. And not just foreigners, even as the Ugandans. Yes.
But also the fear that it will live in the people.
And it will hinder the tourism industry.
But even the citizens, since we are talking about the mental health, man, kuddamu okubeera eyo singa omuyaga bwe gutyo probably
cyclone ekomawo
singa ekomawo probably that was even warning us that worse could even happen. Yes.
Now even the fact that people have now to again rebuilding those you cannot first of all rebuild the memories back, but the fact that you have to get more resources and put up this facility you have had before, a home, a farm. It's not going to be easy.
I was trying to understand if there is a budget, national budget allocated for disaster preparedness. And it is quite sad to see the trends that have happened over the years, that it's until an incident happens that finances or funds are released to respond to this kind of disaster, which as a country,
in other words, we don't have a budget.
Yes, the money is only released when something happens.
That is sad.
I know.
That is sad.
But well, as we draw to a close on this discussion, I believe that Ugandans should take it on as a personal responsibility, understand the different disasters, and also prepare their families, have a backup plan, especially what we know about near waters, the mudslides in Bududa, in Bulambuli areas. You find that we need to be caring for our loved ones. Kampala.
That's true.
But this, I think this has created a certain fear. Some of us would want to build close to the water.
Yeah.
I know.
Cyclone, what?
But I think that is also something that we need to look at and we think as the nation. There is so much that happens. For example, you remember when the Lake Victoria water levels rose, and the Serena Hotel in Chigo and a flooding we also had the Chigo prison, and also some parts of it amazi negambuka. So I think tuetaga okubera abegenderezanga to prospecting okuzimba okumpi
and challenge the problem is that it's hard to detect how far you can go away from the water, because as I told you earlier, the water moves, so you've gone further enough, yet it keeps moving.
But I think it's always better to keep a very reasonable distance from the water.
What is reasonable?
That's the problem.
What is reasonable?
Because now you see, after this has happened, it has pushed further.
Because I mean, someone came to enjoy the breeze.
Even the beaches that we want to put there.
Reasonable distance can be this.
Even in 10 kilometers.
When you continue to examine when it comes to disaster response and preparedness in Africa, we still have a long way to go.
That's true.
And you cannot compare us to the European countries.
That's very
because
true.
These guys take things more serious.
Yes.
For us, it's until it happens. Say, because I was looking at a documentary in Japan where they wanted to, Japan also experiences winter.
Yes.
So they wanted to, how a railway has been passing a particular place, and so they're like, what, if people no longer want to use the railway, let's close it up. And for one child that was always using the railway, they decided to continue the service.
Oh, wow.
I know you're looking at me, Susie.
No, but for me, the issue to me is, yes, we can be prepared as a nation. The funds may be there, the equipment may be there, but the people, the mindset of the people themselves. These things of thinking that when government warns you, abalimba nedda katubagala tugenda wefe wano omuzimu tegusobola kuyitawo. Those things don't work, because disaster is disaster. Where if the winds change course and you are warned, please, for Christ's sake, leave. Because you will die with your whole family.
But Jen,
I know at that moment Right now people keep saying kati fwe mutugamba ogenda tulagewa and all whatever
And they
plan
have
that,
no say.
yes,
It is a top-bottom approach intervention.
so whatever plan the government has at that particular time is what you meanwhile go with as events unfold, and with time you prepare, you organize yourself better. But people are warned, and we have seen in most cases people
they take the warnings
And we have a lot of superstitions being up, and
superstitions, Susan. I think we just have a mistrust with our government agencies in
kati batugoba ku ttaka
okulonda kutuuse.
They'll give all these
but also our machines, really honestly, let them get, I don't know if they are serviced or work better or what, because the challenge is putting up this warning and people relocating and nothing happens, because these things have to make sense. Kugata, because now it has to make sense too. I'm telling you, because we have seen these warnings done in all these nations, these other developed nations, and stuff really happens. Here we are warned and nothing happens. We will be a dry spell.
Yeah.
Here we are in a cyclone.
In Kalangala.
That is why it's called a forecast. But they tell you that this is what we see as far as our machines can see, as far as our equipment can see.
When you see the dry spell, also see the winds.
Also see the winds.
kakituukirire so yagala batugyewo cyclone ejje
sagala batugyewo but warning so that we are
tuveewo cyclone
dry spell. What is wrong with seeing the wind?
I would love to close this by saying if we worked collaboratively with maybe those countries and nations that are really strong and have built the capacity over there, because for them they can even predict in 20 years it's going to happen. The eclipse or solar eclipse or total eclipse will happen in this particular date and time. We need to work very closely with them, like get that knowledge or that expertise and deploy it in our country, and also have these meteorological centers across Uganda, not just in particular areas.
But just like our caller there, the viewer there mentioned, we need to grow more trees again. And the issue of saying that the water will rise, no. Just grow trees, grow as many trees so that they can act as windbreakers. And so that, there is something that can be worked out.
But remember that there is a to give out trees for people to plant, and still some people did not comply to it. So also us as the nation, I think to some point we are a bit negligent, or we don't take something seriously.
I believe it has been a wonderful discussion.
It has.
In regards to the Kalangala, and also how us Ugandans we can prepare ourselves when disaster falls least expectedly. Well, we call it a close right here on the Sunrise Show. Thank you for being a great audience. We continuously urge you to remain vigilant and also prepared. Stay updated on the things that are happening. You and I, of course, can play a great role in transforming this country and also mitigating when such situations do happen. Thank you for being a great audience. From us to you, we say bye-bye till we see you tomorrow. Coming up is the kindergarten.